In terms of content, in terms of what's being put out there, or what, maybe feelings that people have themselves. So, Tom, I don't think, like if you are very, very senior in your career, that there are people who are necessarily, this is a big scary word, but discriminating against you in your career. And I certainly hope that's not the case, because that's not spoken to me, at least by people at companies that we work with. I'm not hearing any of that. I do think experience is always, always an advantage. That battle tested candidate always is somebody that I have in the mix for anything that I'm working on. So yeah, I think that there is, in terms of the content that I'm seeing, I'm like, okay, what am I? Maybe there's something that I'm missing, but in the conversations that I'm having day to day in business, no, I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, that's good. And here's a question from Darian on LinkedIn. Darian asked, what are some of the most impactful metrics you've seen candidates share in IT and transformation context? So you were talking about being specific and getting really detailed and painting that picture of what you actually did. And I know a lot of your recruiting background over the last few years has been in SAP and ERP in particular, but do you have examples of effective use of metrics and sort of illustration of in that way that you were talking about before?
Yeah, there's two, and they matter more than everything. It's money and time. Like, if you can show how you positively impacted money and how you positively impacted time, you have done more than 90+% of people who will apply. And that is absolutely everything that buyers being, managers, directors, VPs, C-suite, that's what they want to see. They want to know that you can help save them money, make them more money, and save them time, do things faster. That's the name of the game. Do those things and you win.
Right.
I'll put it as simply as that. You will win if that is what you are sharing in your resume.
Yeah. So I saved the company this much time, I saved the company this much money, or I implemented, this far under budget, or whatever the metric might be. Something along those lines is what the type of metric you'd want to share, or the type of specifics you want to get into.
You got it. So I deliver this program 6 months early. We save $10 million, and you tie that to one of your job tasks. That's the sweet spot. I did this. It led to this savings this much faster. That's the recipe. That's the formula.
What I've seen be super powerful and resonate really well is if you've come into a situation that's kind of a gnarly situation you're walking into and you've turned it around. So if you could go in and say, like, if you have the experience where you've gone into a project, it was way over budget, it was off track, whatever, and you were able to come in and turn it around, and you're able to point to specific metrics around that, that seems pretty powerful too. If you have that background, I would for sure highlight that, really showcase that on your resume, because that is such a rare skill set. And it seems like a lot of hiring people or IT leaders want that. They want those battle scars. They want to see someone who's been in some pretty gnarly situations and found a way out of it.
I totally agree, and it's another great way to use time and money. They thought it was going to take 12 months. They're 18 months in. I came in, did this in 6 months. They'd already spent this much. They thought they were going to have to spend this much more. They didn't. Instead, I saved them this. Absolutely, yeah. If you can turn things around when it's already a bad situation, you can take their bad numbers and make them your good numbers. That's the move. Yeah.
Right. Makes sense. So what about AI? How should IT professionals be thinking about AI? I know you talked about AI can be used to write resumes, but that's inhuman. You want to make sure you don't lose the humanity of your resume and the content you're creating. But what about just your career in general as it relates to AI? How do you future proof your career, if there is such a thing? But how do you address AI as far as a skill you might have, or how you might use AI in your job? What have you seen work there?
Don't fight the tool. Like, that's, I think, the most important thing. Is weird as it is to say, years into us having AI, if you're using it right now, you're ahead of the curve. I kind of like always use my parents as the benchmark of like how much they're using it. My dad's using it a bit. My mom's not using it at all. And so I know that, you're ahead of a ton of people, but that doesn't necessarily apply to your career specifically. Um, I think large scale AI programs inside of, huge companies are not as powerful right now as you as an individual user using AI in your job that is specific to you. If you are allowed to do that, right? Like every company and is different in terms of what is allowed. If you are allowed to use AI in your job, you should be using it to do absolutely everything you can to make things easier, to make your decision process more linear, more rapid, and to enhance everything that you do. Because it's going to make you understand tools more deeply as they become more advanced and as you have more opportunities for those things to grow. And ideally, as your company or companies that you work at the future start bringing on tools, you can help advise and guide those tools because, I think we're all looking at the future of what work looks like differently. We don't know. So if you can impact the decision of the tools, how to use those tools to, grow in your career and make your job and other jobs easier, it makes you far more valuable than just the person who completes the task
Yeah.
that is in front of you. Yeah.
And it seems like there's on the consulting side of what we do. So we have, two companies that I'm affiliated with. One is the Lander Talent, which does staffing, and then there's Third Stage Consulting, which does the more advisory and consulting type of work. There's a lot of connections between the two, but what we're talking about here is more building out an internal team versus a consulting team. But one thing we're seeing on the consulting side of what we do is that even the more forward-thinking organizations right now, where we're advising them on AI strategy, because that's a big offering for us right now. We have 3 clients in particular where they're not looking at ERP, they're not looking at your traditional tech upgrade. They're looking for just AI strategy to help us figure out how to use AI in our organizations. And even these forward-thinking organizations are just barely getting started. Like they're barely scratching the surface. They barely understand how this technology could possibly affect them. So if you can show that on your resume, I would think that's going to be a pretty powerful differentiator to say, okay, this is, is this just hype? Because there is a lot of hype around AI, but this person actually, I see how they actually used it, and they're giving me examples of how they use it to do their jobs better. It seems like that'd be something you'd want to highlight, on your resume. Is that true?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that is something that every company is looking for. It's one of those, like if you're a hiring manager, if you're going to do a quick search of a resume and look for keywords, that's your AI is going to be one of them, and you're going to see how that's being used by every candidate for sure.